many of us have felt, whether right or wrong, that the sacrifices made by our fleet had been either forgotten or ignored by our own government in particular, or by naval writers in general. I often think of the first time we visited the National Naval Museum in Washington, D.C. As we entered the lobby, my wife pointed upwards and brought my attention to the circular ceiling on the base of which was inscribed the battles of World War II, the sea battles of World War II. And of course, the first battle listed was that of the Coral Sea. Now, we have become used to this over the many years. And obviously, those people who composed that list for the memorial felt that Balikpapan and the Flores Sea and the Java Sea and Sunda Strait were not significant enough to be considered as sea battles listed alongside of Coral Sea and the rest. Well, if the Java Sea and the Sunda Straits were not sea battles, then I'm certainly glad that we never got into a sea battle. Many times we have sat around in the lobbies of hotels at reunions bemoaning the fact that the sacrifices and exploits of our fleet seem to have been ignored or overlooked. And someone would always say, hey, come on, you guys, you got to remember that ours were defeats, and you only celebrate victories, not defeats. And I bought into that theory for a little while until I started studying the events of the first 85 days of the war, and I came to the conclusion that that could not be farther from the truth, this theory that ours were nothing but defeats. The USS Houston had been given a mission. That mission was of buying time, of fighting a holding action. That mission did not include air power, reinforcements, or resupply from the United States. It was a matter of doing the best we could with what we had. And that's exactly what the USS Houston did. POW camps, we salute you, one and all. Your service sacrifices for your country know no bounds. And today we're here to meet and honor you in the only tangible way we know how. By dedicating this monument to you, it may remind our citizens also that we should never again be caught unprepared to defend our country.
Readiness to make victory in war certain and speedy will deter aggression. Mayor, would you please unveil the money?
I'm a soldier, and I fought all over the world. Freedom holds me. Every time I see the flag unfurled, I'll be ready whenever they call me, no matter where they say I'm bound. And when it's over, I'll still be around, 'cause I'm coming home. It's good to be home. I'm a flyer. I've seen conflict over foreign skies. I fly higher when the anthem brings the tears to my eyes. When my battles are finally behind me, when I've finished with my missions above, when I've protected the people I love, I'm coming home. 'Cause there's no place like home, no place like home. There's just no other way to say how it feels to be back where you belong. No place like home, no place like home. There's nothing on earth that feels as good as home.
All the way from Manila Bay on December 8th, and in our case, Iloilo, down to Java and the Indian Ocean in March of 1942, the USS Houston bought time. Have you ever wondered what might have happened had we not been left there? Might not the Japanese timetable have been put on fast forward? And might they not have made it all the way to Western Australia and accomplished a successful invasion there? One which was fully expected. But this did not happen. The remnants of the Asiatic fleet stood steadfast, shoulder to shoulder with our allies, the British, Dutch, and Australians, and we fought until there were no more ships to fight with. So I have come to the conclusion that ours were not defeats in any sense of the word, but instead a strategical victory, in that for the first 85 days of the war, we had been asked to buy time, and at a great sacrifice of some 1,800 men and most of the ships of the Asiatic fleet, we accomplished that task, and we bought time. By then, the pendulum of war started to swing the other way. Japan's conquest had been halted, and America would shortly begin its advance up the Pacific to ultimate victory over Japan. Our buying time in the beginning played an important part in that ultimate victory. And so, as we stand tomorrow in Sam Houston Park at our beautiful monument to honor the memory of our shipmates who are still standing watch in Sunda Strait. We can do so with the assurance that they did not die in vain. They gave the final, ultimate attempt, and they did so for a just and righteous cause. And while there are any of us left alive, we will not forget them. Please join me in a couple of moments of silence as we pay tribute to those men that we left behind. They have no graves but the cruel sea. No flowers lay at their head. A rusting hope is their tombstone, a fast on the ocean bed. They shall grow not old as we who remain grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember. Thank you.
It's Jerry Ranger, the one's been emailing you.
Oh, yeah, okay. Hi, how you doing?
Pretty good. We're surrounded by the survivors, Otto and all the rest of them, and Mason's here too. I'm going to turn it over to Otto and he can ask some questions.
What are you guys doing right now?
Well, right now we're just sitting on the boat. It's a hot day here, probably around 90 degrees, very humid. It's bright and sunny. Sea is kind of a dark green color. We have some stratus clouds up in the sky. The island of Java is, of course, directly to our south. We can see the high mountains on the island from here, covered in green foliage. Actually, it's very pretty. I think it's Panjang Island. We can see that kind of low off to the east, or off to the south rather. And but the island of Java, the mountains are just pretty impressive from here.
Yeah, we could see those mountains in the moonlight while we were swimming around deciding where to go.
Yeah, the first night that we were here, we came in, we anchored, and we ran up that 48-star American flag on the mast. And we've got pictures of all this, by the way, that we're going to send you. And the oddest thing happened. We had a full moon that first night that we anchored, and this would have been 60 years to the hour that the ship went down. And the moon ended up being directly overhead, and there was this weird halo effect around the moon and the whole dive site. It was really a bit eerie.
Well, can you describe to us any damage that you saw on the port side in the hull?
On the port side, so far what we've seen is massive damage in the area of the bridge, and this is not corrosion damage. This appears to be battle damage. It looks like the whole bridge area appears to have been shot to pieces, and I guess that's the area that's going to stand out the most on the ship when it's, of course, in battle. We did find the number 1 and number 2 turrets. Those turrets are still semi-attached. So the turrets are still there, but the barrels are stuck way down into the mud. The number 1 turret, the 3 8-inch barrels are kind of parallel to the seafloor, so it looks like when the ship rolled and sank, the number 1 turret, it was either trained to starboard or it moved to starboard, and mechanism that holds the turret in place was actually working, or if it was actually connected well to the hull, because that turret is completely gone. It's off the ship about 30 or so feet, and it's lying on the bottom. And it looks like it's a big pile of rubble, and the hole that turret came out of is just massive. We went through the port hangar bay from stem to stern, but the problem that we encountered with the port hangar bay is that a lot of the floor of the hangar bay is all corroded away and gone, so it's kind of difficult to tell where the port hangar stopped and where the next deck started, because everything is just so corroded and gone. So it's, although we swam into it, it was a little bit tough to tell. We swam into another space. Initially I thought it was the hangar bay, and it was in the vicinity of the hangar, and it was, we were moving fast, and it was probably about 10 feet wide and maybe about 20 feet deep, so it was narrower than the hangar bay. I'm not sure what we were in, but we got about 10 feet in there, and we were confronted by a school of pretty good size, maybe 4-foot barracuda. And we kind of gingerly swam past them, and they swam past us, and it didn't bother us, but still it was got the pulse racing a little bit.
Is there any evidence of, for instance, a torpedo hit on the port side?
We swam around the port side, and unfortunately, we have not done a complete evaluation below the waterline, although from what we have seen, we've seen the area from, there's like a kind of a fin that sticks out on the bottom, about 1/3 from the hull of the ship, and it goes all the way through midships and to about 1/3 from the stern of the ship. You know what I mean? So
Yes.
this big fin on each side of the bottom of the hull.
Stabilizing fin.
Yeah, stabilizer, I guess, or something.
Yeah. Well, we saw that, and we swam the length of that, and there was no evidence of any torpedo damage from the front of that all the way to the stern. Now, there may have been a torpedo hit further forward than that, but a lot of the bow is down buried in the mud.
Oh.
It's possible that there was a torpedo hit. Well, there was a torpedo hit port side, maybe in the vicinity of the keel, because the ship was listing to starboard when it hit.
Makes sense.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions for him?
Thank you for being patient with the technical difficulties here. You say you didn't see any torpedo damage on that side. What about the interior of the superstructure? For example, were you able to get into the admiral's cabin and the captain's cabin?
But that's our next step, is to try to get into Captain Rook's cabin. Right now, the doors to that cabin are dogged shut.
So,
Well, the only porthole that I know of, well, I know a couple of portholes. One, Mason Loggy had brought that glass to the Survivors Association a year or so ago.
Right, we have that. We have that, but we had a report that the porthole had been recovered and was on its way here. You know nothing of that?
I do not know anything of that.
So it wasn't your team that did that?
No, the portholes are all missing. We did find a couple of portholes that are still there, but all the ones that we saw were gone.
The starboard hangar.
Partly because of conditions and depth and things like that. There was a lot of cranes and cables and all in the water, so until we got better visibility, we weren't going to go down toward the starboard hangar. Now, it's possible, in fact, it's probable that the starboard hangar actually going to be able to be reached from inside the port hangar, because, like I said, the walls in the interior are all gone. Everything's corroded.
David, it's Clay again. You'd mentioned in email that you are going to be looking in the con for the logbook. Do you have any success in that area?
No, because everything is just filled with silt. It would take a major effort with some kind of vacuum cleaner to get all that We were looking for compartments that might have been still sealed, that would not have the silt problem. That's one of the reasons why we were interested in trying to get to Captain Rook's cabin, possibly through that port passage that goes from the passenger deck.
David, Otto again. It's interesting what you have revealed about turret 1 and 2. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes I can.
It's interesting what you told us about turret 1 and 2, because all these years we had been told by other divers that all the turrets were about 30 feet away from the ship. So it's interesting to find out that 1 and 2 are actually still intact on the ship.
Yeah, that's correct. I'm not sure the divers were saying, but we confirmed it. We have both. The gun barrels are just out. The turrets are there.
Well, very good. That's good information that we didn't have.
Hey, about turret 2, they reported a huge explosion right before the ship sank.
Yeah?
Is the roof of that turret blown out?
No, the roofs of the turret are not blown out, but the area around number 2 turret it looks like what has happened right now is that number 2 turret has ripped away and has gone partway down the starboard side and is stuck in the mud because the area in which the number 2 turret was originally connected is all open to the sea. So there is a hatch that is directly in front of the hatch that goes into the Admiral's cabin, or Captain Rook's cabin. That hatch initially opened into a passage that led to turret number 2. And that hatch now, when you open it up and you go into that passageway, it just, I went through there and it opens up to the sea, where turret number 2 at one time was.
Yeah, there was a direct hit on the face plate, the front of turret number 2.
Uh-huh.
Mr. Logie.
Yes, hi.
Hi. I know you asked me about the fishing nets. How'd you find any fishing nets?
Yeah, we found fishing nets, and there were a couple of times when I had to cut myself out of some fishing line, and I think the other guys ran into a little bit of that too, but the fishing lines and the nets were not near the problem that we thought they were going to be.
Which is what I told you. One thing that I did run into, and did you see the propeller guard?
Yeah, we saw the propeller guards. They're in place intact. There were some dive shops here on the island that said, no, the Houston is not there. It can't be that close in. And so all these folks here are saying it's out there in the Java Sea, much further out. But the thing is, I mean, we found the propeller guards. They match exactly the drawing. And then on top of that, we found the hangar bay and everything else. So what we found is definitely the Houston. But the folks around here on Java don't believe it.
All right, when I dove the Houston, I went through the port hangar just like you. Also, on the upper decks on the port side, where the 8-inch guns were supposed to be, I found platforms, but I did not find really much of the 8-inch guns. Did you see any?
We saw the 8-inch guns.
5-inch guns.
Oh,
No, there were no 5-inch guns. The 5-inch guns, the gun tubs that those 5-inch guns were in, like those semicircular tubs are there, but the guns themselves are gone. Sank with the bow facing almost directly east. And it's on its starboard side, and the deck side is now facing the island of Java.
It's funny.
And the only reports that we had of the ship facing southwest are not, that's not accurate. The ship is on a bearing of 080 degrees, so it's almost due east. The other thing that we did that y'all might be interested in is we got a 48-star American flag. It's a real one back from the 40s, and we took that flag to the embassy. They had a ceremony at the American Embassy in Jakarta on Wednesday, and the Marine Guards did the ceremony, and they folded the flag up after they ran it up, and they had it, so they flew it over the embassy on Wednesday, and they presented it to us, and then we brought it out here, and the first night that we arrived, we took that and we put it up the mast, and so that 48-star flag, it's a good-sized flag, it's a 10-foot flag hanging on the mast with the state of Texas
political situation like? Is it safe to travel in Indonesia?
Absolutely. What we have found is that the reports that you hear on CNN are just grossly exaggerated. For example, I've been here for several months, and what I've seen is that CNN will come out and they'll say that there's political demonstrations against Americans in Jakarta and so on. But what it actually is there's a few people that will pay several hundred people, maybe a very 20,000 rupees or less, and they'll offer them a free lunch if they'll go out in front of the American embassy and stage a protest. In fact, I've got my wife, my 6-year-old son, my daughters, I've got them all here with me, so we've not had any problem.
We're gonna wrap it up.
Okay, David, when I dove it, between turret 1 and 2 on the hull between and the deck, there was an area where there appeared to be shell fire damage. Did you see that?
Yeah, we saw a lot of shell fire damage through that area. We saw a lot of shell fire damage in the hull itself, between the water line and the top of the hull. A lot of shell fire damage all through that area. Most of it being in the area vicinity of the bridge, number 1, number 2 turret. And there was also a few holes aft, but one thing that we saw that was really interesting is that there was this great big dent in the port side of the ship aft. There's not a hole, but there's a great big dent there. So something had to hit there really hard to make this giant dent. If anyone had any idea what that might be.
Yeah.
No.
I'm going to close it for the group. Otto just said wrap it up. We're going to do it. Thank you for the time you took to make the dive for the survivors on their 60th anniversary and your crew. And we'll be looking forward for the flag so we can put it in the museum. Also, Val and Lynn would like to thank you and the rest of the people here. Good hunting, good seas, and we'll catch you next year.
Somebody,
You want to clap?